The moment I stepped into that courtroom, my daughter's husband smirked right before the judge saw my face and dropped his pen like he'd seen a ghost. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. His eyes went wide, almost terrified, and he whispered a name nobody in that room had ever heard before. The Ledger. He was staring straight at me. To my daughter, to my son-in-law, to everyone in that room, I was supposed to be a fragile, fading older woman. A burden, a problem to be handled. They had no idea they had just tried to cage a woman who used to cut through corruption like steel. But before the courtroom, before the shock, it all started with a simple dinner. A dinner where I was supposed to sit quietly, smile politely, and disappear. It was a Sunday evening at my daughter's immaculate Los Angeles home. A glass-walled mansion balanced on a canyon bluff. The kind of place full of things, but empty of warmth. I sat at the far end of a dining table long enough to land a helicopter on. I wasn't part of the conversation. I was background noise. My daughter, Elena, waved her fork in the air. The waterfall feature has to reach all the way to the lower deck, Liam. Otherwise, what's the point? Her husband, Liam Caldwell, adjusted the cuffs of his too-tight designer shirt without looking up from his phone. Whatever you want, babe. The new resort deal closes this month. It'll be huge. After that, you can have the pool built from diamonds. They both laughed. They didn't talk to me, only around me. Their voices floated over me like I was a piece of antique furniture they didn't know where to store. I stared at my plate, letting the asparagus grow cold. At 69, I had become invisible. The only one who still saw me was my granddaughter, Ava, 17 years old and the last flicker of kindness in that house. She leaned forward, eyes bright. "Grandma, my robotics competition is Saturday. Will you come? I want you there." I opened my mouth, warmed by the invitation. "No, sweetheart," Liam interrupted sharply. "Your grandmother needs rest. She's too tired for all that." Elena giggled like it was a joke. "He's right. Mom gets overwhelmed so easily now." That laughter? It cut deeper than anything. They didn't ask me how I felt. They didn't ask me what I wanted. They just edited me out of my own life. And I let them. But I wouldn't. Not for much longer. Because in 3 days a knock on my door would change everything. And when I opened that door, the envelope handed to me would start a war they never saw coming. 3 days after that dinner, a knock hit my door so hard it felt like it was testing the strength of the walls and my patience. It wasn't Elena. It wasn't Liam. Their knocks were different, casual, entitled, like they owned the very air around them. No, this knock was sharp, professional, urgent. I opened the door to a man in a crisp uniform holding a digital scanner and a thick white envelope that seemed to radiate tension. "Marianne Hale?" he asked. "Yes. Legal express delivery. Signature required." I signed. He was gone before the air settled. The envelope felt like it weighed 100 pounds, not because of the paper, but because of the intention behind it. I carried it to my kitchen table. The simple wood suddenly felt like a witness. My hands stayed steady, a skill I had never lost. I slid my thumb beneath the flap and opened the envelope. A petition, filed against me, by Elena Caldwell and Liam Caldwell. My own daughter, my son-in-law. I read the first line twice, not because I didn't understand it, but because I couldn't believe the arrogance. They were filing for conservatorship over me, declaring me mentally unfit, wanting control, complete control over my medical and financial decisions. I flipped the page. Exhibit A, a psychological evaluation, signed by a Dr. Henry Mallon, a man I had never met in my life. He claimed I had paranoid delusions, severe cognitive decline, no understanding of finances, inability to make sound decisions. I almost laughed. a humorless, cold sound. Me? The woman who once untangled a $2 billion laundering ring using only a ledger and a laptop? The woman federal prosecutors used to call the ledger because I could find rot buried under 20 layers of lies. They thought they could erase me with a forged report. That's when rage flickered. Not hot, but cold and controlled. The kind of cold that comes after too much patience. I slipped the papers back into the envelope, stood up, and walked across the lawn toward the main house. Sunlight cut across the path like warning signs. The patio doors were open. Music played softly. Laughter floated through the air like poison. Elena lay stretched out on a lounge chair, sunglasses perched on her head, a magazine balanced across her stomach. Liam stood at the outdoor bar mixing a drink, as if he didn't have a care in the world, perfectly relaxed, perfectly confident, like two people who believed they had already won. I stepped onto the patio. My shadow slid across Elena's face. She looked up and froze. "Mom, what are you doing here?" she whispered. But I wasn't looking at her. My eyes were locked on the envelope in my hand. And when I lifted that envelope, the look on Liam's face told me one thing. He hadn't expected me to fight back. The second I held that envelope up, Liam's smile collapsed, like a mask slipping off a man who suddenly remembered he wasn't safe. He tried to recover, straightening his shoulders, lifting his drink as if nothing in the world could touch him. But his eyes betrayed him. They flicked to the envelope, then to me, then back again. Fear, a small, sharp, electric flicker. Elena sat up too fast, her sunglasses tumbling onto the tiles. "Mom, why do you look like that?" she whispered. But she wasn't looking at my face. She was looking at the papers, and she already knew. She just didn't want to believe it. I spoke calmly, almost softly, the kind of soft that comes before a storm. "What is this?" I asked, raising the petition. Liam stepped forward with a heartbreaking imitation of sympathy. "Marianne, we meant to talk to you. Before the hearing. We just wanted to make sure you were protected." Protected? The word tasted sour. "Protected," I repeated. "Or controlled?" His expression flickered. "Mom, please don't make this dramatic," Elena murmured. "We love you. We're just worried. You've seemed confused lately." Confused? Me? I stared at them both, trying to understand how it had come to this. How my own daughter could sign her name under something so cruel. Liam sighed, like he had just dealt with a difficult child. "It's not your fault. Aging is hard. You forget things. You worry too much. This conservatorship is just for stability, for peace." "For peace for whom?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I know this is overwhelming, but fighting it will only make it harder. On you." On me. Always on me. Always about what I couldn't handle. They had rewritten my entire identity into a fragile thing because it made it easier to steal from me. I took a slow breath and looked at my daughter. "Elena," I said quietly, "you're signing a paper that says your mother is incapable of thinking. Does that feel like love to you?" She flinched. "But Liam?" He didn't flinch. He didn't move. His charm cracked straight down the center, and through it, something ugly crawled out. "You know what?" he said sharply. "Yes, I think it is love. Someone has to make decisions around here. Someone has to manage things." Manage things, his favorite phrase. "And you?" I asked. "You think you're the one to manage my life?" He leaned back, a cold smile curling on his lips. Frankly, yes. You're old, Marianne. You're stubborn. You're unpredictable. He lifted his drink in a mocking toast, and that doctor's report proves it. My heart didn't sink. It sharpened, because that's when I realized something important. Liam truly believed he'd already won. He believed I was alone, helpless, and that belief would be the first mistake that would ruin him. Because when I walked back to my guest house that afternoon, I didn't open a bottle of wine. I opened something they didn't know existed, my real life. The moment I shut the door of my guest house, I stopped being the woman they dismissed and became the woman they should have feared from the beginning. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence settle, not sadness, not shock, just clarity, cold, clean, sharpened clarity. My guest house was small, barely enough room for a bed, a chair, and memories no one cared to ask me about. But what Liam and Elena never realized was that I only lived in half of it. The other half, they didn't even know existed. I walked past the framed photo of my late husband, past the soft old cardigan draped over my chair, past the kitchen that smelled faintly of mint tea, straight to the walk-in closet. It looked ordinary. Clothes, shoes, a row of jackets, a quiet old woman's space. But behind the row of dresses, hidden by a sliding panel only I knew how to open, was a steel door, matte black and fingerprint locked. I pressed my thumb to the scanner. A soft click echoed through the tiny room, a familiar sound, one I hadn't heard in years. The deadbolt slid open. I stepped inside. No bed, no decorations, no signs of aging or fragility, just floor-to-ceiling shelves of financial documents, 3 high-resolution monitors glowing faintly, a wall of locked drawers, a secure satellite phone, an encrypted system I had personally built back when people still whispered my name in courtrooms. This wasn't a hiding place. This was my real home. This was where the ledger lived. I sat down at the console, the leather chair adjusting itself the way it always had, as if welcoming me back. My hands hovered over the keyboard. No tremor, no hesitation, no weakness. Liam thought I was a retired bookkeeper, someone who used a calculator with giant buttons and read instructions twice to understand them. He had no idea that for 27 years I was the federal government's most precise blade, the woman brought in to dissect financial lies, expose fraud, and dismantle empires built on secrets. 12 CEOs went to prison because of my reports. 4 senators resigned. 3 multinational companies collapsed. And now my own daughter and her husband were trying to label me mentally unfit? No, absolutely not. I picked up the secure phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a decade, a number burned so deep into my memory it felt like part of my pulse. It rang twice. A voice answered, sharp, poised, unmistakably competent. Hayes Consulting Services, this is Riley Hayes. It's Marianne, I said. Silence. Not confusion. Recognition. Then a slow exhale. Ledger? Is that really you? It is, I said. And I need you in Los Angeles by tomorrow morning. Riley didn't even ask why. Say no more. I'll bring a team. Bring your best, I said, because they think they can take me down. And Riley laughed, a short, sharp, dangerous laugh. Oh, Marianne, she said, they have no idea who they just declared war on. But Riley's arrival would be only the beginning, because before dawn, she would uncover a secret about Liam that even I hadn't imagined. Riley Hayes arrived before sunrise, because when someone like me calls after a decade of silence, you don't wait for breakfast. Her rental car pulled up quietly, headlights slicing through the early morning fog that clung to the canyon. She stepped out wearing a fitted navy blazer, her hair in a sleek braid, a laptop bag slung over one shoulder like a weapon. She didn't knock. She walked straight into my hidden office because I had already opened the steel door for her. "Still dramatic," she said with a half smile. "Still efficient," I replied. She set down her bag, cracked her knuckles, and scanned my screens. "So," she said, "who do I need to dismantle?" I handed her the conservatorship petition. She read it once, then twice. When she looked up, her eyes were ice. "They're accusing you of being incompetent?" she said. "Marianne, this is the dumbest suicide mission I've ever seen." "Riley," I said softly, "we're not here for pride. We're here for truth." She nodded, sat at the console, and began typing with frightening speed. "Let's start with the so-called doctor," she muttered. "What was his name? Henry Mallon?" "A fake psychologist," I said. "Perfect. I'll pull everything." She connected to encrypted databases, running background searches so fast the screens blurred. Within minutes, her expression shifted from focused to disgusted. "Oh, Marianne," she whispered, "you're not going to like this." "Tell me." "He's not a psychologist, not even close." I waited. "He's a former podiatrist, a foot doctor, lost his license 7 years ago for insurance fraud and writing illegal prescriptions." I let out a breath, not shock, but confirmation. "And he signed a mental competency evaluation?" I said. "After being paid," she added, tapping a key. "Guess how much?" "How much?" $30,000, direct transfer." I folded my arms. "Where from?" Riley zoomed in on the data, and then she said something that made my stomach tighten. "It wasn't from Liam. Well, not directly." She adjusted her glasses. "It came from a charitable organization account, one registered under your last name." My pulse stilled. "The Hale Research Foundation," she said. "The one you created after Daniel died. The one you trusted Elena to manage." I felt something cold spread across my chest. "Show me the signature," I said. Riley clicked. The scanned check filled the screen. Elegant cursive. "Elena Caldwell. My daughter." Her handwriting unmistakable. She had signed the payment to the fraudulent doctor. I closed my eyes, not from weakness, but from a grief so sharp it almost carved through my ribs. Riley's voice softened. "I'm sorry, Marianne. She's deeper in this than you thought." "No," I said quietly, opening my eyes again. "She's exactly as deep as they needed her to be." Riley exhaled slowly. "Do you want me to keep digging?" "Keep digging," I said. "Don't stop until you hit bone." Her fingers flew across the keys. 3 minutes later, she froze. Oh my God," she whispered. I leaned in. "What did you find?" She turned the screen toward me. "Liam didn't just use Elena," she said. "He used your foundation to pay for something else, something big." She clicked. A new transaction appeared, and the amount made my breath catch. $200,000, transferred to a company I had never heard of. And the moment I read the name of that company, I realized Liam wasn't just greedy. He was hiding something far more dangerous than money. The moment Riley whispered the company name, I felt the world tilt, like the ground had quietly cracked open beneath us. On the screen, glowing in sharp black letters, sat the name of a corporation I had hoped never to see again. Solance Equity Group. For a full 2 seconds, I didn't breathe. Riley looked at me, confusion mixing with worry. "You know them?" "Yes," I said. My voice was low, steady, too steady. "Riley, Solance isn't a company. It's a warning." She blinked. "A warning?" I leaned closer. "They're a private lender, not a bank, not a firm, not a fund." I swallowed hard. "They specialize in rescuing failing real estate projects by owning the people behind them." Riley's face paled. "Loan sharks." "No," I corrected. "They make loan sharks look friendly." She clicked through the documents, her hand shaking despite herself. "He took $200,000 from your foundation," she said, "to pay Solance." "He didn't pay them," I murmured. "He bought time." Very few people knew the truth behind Solance. I did. I had spent years tracing their shadowy financial operations for the DOJ, buried under layers of shell companies, fake directors, and offshore accounts. They were the last resort for desperate developers, the kind who didn't expect to survive long enough to repay them. Riley kept scrolling. Each line she opened was worse than the last. Loan penalties, hidden clauses, accelerated interest. Threat-level language disguised as contractual reminders. Riley looked at me. "Marianne, this isn't normal debt. This is extortion." "Exactly." She leaned back in her chair, letting the reality sink in. "So Liam isn't just broke," she whispered. "He's drowning." "And he used my foundation," I said, "to keep his head above water." Riley's jaw clenched. "This means he's more dangerous than we thought." "No," I corrected softly. "This means he's desperate. And desperate men don't think. They destroy." For the first time since she arrived, Riley's confident mask slipped slightly. "You think he'll try something worse?" "I think he already has," I said. "He tried to erase me from my own life." Riley stared at me, her eyes narrowing. "Marianne, well, what if the conservatorship wasn't the end goal?" I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She turned the screen again, this time showing a different document, a document Liam had uploaded to a secure folder. Something I hadn't seen, something I didn't want to breathe near in case it was as explosive as it looked, a scanned note, written in Liam's bold handwriting. "If anything happens to Marianne, all assets revert to Elena by default." My blood ran cold. Riley whispered, "He wasn't planning to control you." She looked up, eyes wide with dawning horror. "He was planning to remove you." The room went silent, so silent the air seemed to freeze. I felt no fear, only certainty. The interval was over. War had officially begun. And at that exact moment, a new alert flashed on the monitor, something that proved Liam wasn't done yet, not even close. The alert on the monitor didn't blink. It pulsed, like a heartbeat pounding through the room, and every instinct in me knew whatever was about to appear would change the direction of this war. Riley leaned forward first. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, unlocking the encrypted notification. I stepped beside her, forcing my breath to stay even. When the screen loaded, Riley's face tightened. "It's a location ping," she said, "from your bank's internal fraud system." "My bank?" I whispered. "Not your account," she corrected. "Your foundation's account." Another hit of cold ran through me. She enlarged the alert. A failed login attempt at 2:16 a.m. from an unknown device. And then another line appeared. Second attempt successful. My pulse dropped into my stomach. "Who accessed it?" I asked. Riley typed so fast her bracelets clinked against the desk. The screen changed. A device ID appeared. A location popped up. Riley froze. "No way," she breathed. "What?" Her finger hovered over the screen. The login wasn't from Liam or Elena. My heart stilled. "Then who?" "The access came from someone inside the house," she said. "Inside which house?" "Your daughter's." I stared at her. "That's not possible," I said quietly. "Elena doesn't know how to bypass multi-factor, and Liam, he wouldn't risk doing it from home." The cursor blinked, waiting. Riley's voice dropped into a whisper. "The device belongs to someone younger, someone who uses the Caldwell Wi-Fi constantly." I blinked. "No." Riley nodded slowly. "Yes." I gripped the edges of the desk. "Ava," I whispered. "My granddaughter. 17. Sweet, bright, the only pure soul in that entire household." "She wouldn't," I whispered almost to myself. "She's a child." Riley shook her head. "She's not a child. She's a robotics prodigy. You said it yourself. Kids like her learn tech the way they learn to breathe." The room spun just slightly. "Ava? My Ava? But why would she access a financial account?" I murmured. Riley pulled up the activity log. Her face changed again, this time into shock. "Oh my God!" "What now?" I asked. "Marianne, she didn't take money." She clicked the timestamp. My throat tightened. "She downloaded files," Riley said. "Dozens of them." "What files?" Another click. The list populated. Financial audits, grant records, tax filings, legal correspondence, background reports, all related to the Hale Foundation, and one more. One that made my knees weaken beneath me, an investigative dossier I compiled years ago titled Solence Equity Group, Structure, Threats, and Criminal Exposure. Riley whispered. "She downloaded the Solence report." I couldn't swallow. My voice came out thin. "She accessed documents no teenager should even know exist." There was a long moment. A moment where the truth, heavy and dark, settled between us. "Marianne," Riley said softly, "what if Ava isn't just involved accidentally? What if she knows something? Something she's afraid to tell you?" The thought hit me so sharply it felt like a blade. A knock suddenly echoed from outside the guest house door. Not a gentle knock, not a hesitant one, a sharp, urgent, almost frantic pounding. Riley leapt to her feet. "Who is that?" I didn't know, but I knew one thing. This story had just collided with another secret, because when I opened that door, the person standing on the other side was the last person I ever expected to see shaking with fear. When I opened the door, I expected danger. What I didn't expect was my granddaughter, Ava, standing there with tears streaking down her face and a backpack clutched to her chest like she was running for her life. She looked small, shaken, breathing too fast. But her eyes carried a fear I recognized instantly. Not teenage panic, not guilt. A fear born from witnessing something she wasn't supposed to see. "Ava?" I whispered. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer with words. She pushed past me and stumbled inside, locking the door behind her. Riley stood frozen, watching the teenager collapse onto the nearest chair. Ava tried to breathe, but the breaths came out in short, broken bursts. He knows," she choked out. I knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, who knows what?" She swallowed hard, eyes darting between me and Riley. "Liam," she whispered. "He knows I saw his emails. He knows I downloaded the files." Riley shot me a sharp glance. Ava wiped her face with trembling hands. "I didn't mean to get involved," she said. "I swear, Grandma, I saw something on his computer and it didn't feel right. He left the screen open. It had your name on it. Something about movement of funds and timelines. I thought he was planning something against you." Her voice cracked, so I looked deeper. My heart clenched. "Oh, Ava." She shook her head wildly. "No, you don't understand. I didn't know the foundation was yours. Mom never talks about it. I just knew the files were important. And then the Solent stuff. Those documents scared me. Whoever they are, he's terrified of them. He keeps getting these messages, warnings." Riley stepped closer. "Ava, when did he find out you accessed the files?" Ava's breath hitched. "Last night." The room seemed to shrink. "I heard him yelling on the phone," she said. "He said, 'She knows. She saw everything.' He didn't say my name, but I knew he meant me." "What did he do?" I asked softly. Ava gripped her backpack tighter. "He came into my room later, acting calm. Too calm. He asked if I'd used his computer. He asked if I'd seen anything strange." She shook her head. I lied, but he didn't believe me. Riley's jaw clenched. "What happened next?" Ava hesitated, looked down, then whispered. "I heard him tell Mom that if I didn't stay quiet, we'd all be in danger." My blood froze. Danger? For a child? I felt something sharp settle in my chest, an old, familiar steel, the ledger awakening fully. "Ava," I said, cupping her face gently, "you did the right thing coming here. You're safe now." But her next words cut through me. "No, Grandma, I'm not." She reached into her backpack with shaking fingers. "I took something from Liam's office before I ran." Riley and I both leaned forward. Ava unzipped the bag and pulled out a small black flash drive. "This," she whispered, "is what he's been hiding, and I think Solence wants it back." The weight of the room shifted. Even Riley stepped back, breath catching, because whatever was on that drive was powerful enough to make Liam threaten a teenager's life. And when Riley plugged the drive into our encrypted system, the first file that opened didn't just expose Liam. It exposed someone far closer to me. The moment Riley inserted the flash drive, the lights in the room seemed to dim, like even the walls understood that whatever we were about to see could not be unseen. Ava held my hand, her fingers cold and trembling. Riley typed in a string of encrypted commands, isolating the drive so it couldn't send anything back to Solence or trigger any traps. The first folder appeared. One word, one name. Hale. My last name. Riley clicked it open slowly, like she was afraid it might explode. Inside that folder were documents, hundreds of them, financial graphs, asset transfers, email screenshots, voice message transcripts, company filings, all of them connected to my family. Not Liam. Elena. My daughter's face flashed in my mind. Her laughter on the patio, her dismissive smile, the way she once held my hand as a little girl with absolute trust. Riley opened the first file, a scanned ledger page, transaction dates, account numbers, large withdrawals, all from the foundation, signed by Elena. But that wasn't the worst part. Riley zoomed in on the notes, written in Liam's handwriting. Cover for Elena. Move amounts gradually. Solence expects repayment. Use Marianne's signature when necessary. A sick feeling crept through me. My signature? I whispered. Riley opened another document, a forged authorization form. And there it was, my name, my handwriting, perfectly mimicked. Ava gasped. "Grandma, they forged you." Sawing through my life, cutting me out piece by piece. Riley clicked again. Next file, a video. Ava leaned forward. "Play it," she whispered. Riley hit enter. The video loaded, a grainy office feed, time-stamped 2 months earlier. Liam and Elena were inside, not arguing, not nervous, planning. "Elena," Liam said, pacing, "Solance is tightening the noose. They want the money now. If we don't deliver, we will," she snapped. "Mother has enough. She just doesn't use it, and she barely knows what day it is half the time." I felt something break inside me, but I didn't cry. I went numb. Liam leaned closer to her. "We need full control. Conservatorship is the fastest way." "And if she refuses?" Elena asked. He shrugged. "Then we make the court believe she's unstable." Elena didn't gasp. She didn't hesitate. She nodded, like it was nothing. Ava clutched her head with both hands. Mom did all that?" She looked shattered, like her heart had fallen out of her chest. Riley whispered, "There's more." She opened the final file, an email chain. My eyes scanned it once, and the world inside me darkened, because at the bottom of that chain was a message from Solance directly. "If the older asset becomes a liability, remove the problem. Do not risk exposure." Older asset. Me. Ava burst into tears. Riley backed away from the desk as if the file itself were toxic. I stared at the screen, my pulse steady, slow, deadly calm. This wasn't just fraud. This wasn't just greed. This was a plan. A deliberate, calculated plan to erase me. And right as that truth settled, Riley's phone vibrated with a message that made her face drain of all color. Because Solance wasn't waiting. They were already on their way. The moment Riley's phone lit up with that message, the entire room went silent, because Solance wasn't coming tomorrow or later. They were already in the neighborhood. Riley's voice was barely a whisper. "They traced the flash drive." Ava's hand wrapped around my arm, trembling. "Grandma, what do we do?" I looked at her. My granddaughter, pulled into a world of greed and danger she never asked for. Something inside me shifted, not fear, not panic, a vow. "We end this," I said. Riley stared at me. "Marianne, Solance doesn't negotiate. They eliminate loose ends." I stepped closer to her. "I was never a loose end." I turned to Ava and gently cupped her face. "You're going to be brave now, sweetheart. Just a little longer." She nodded, tears slipping down. Riley pulled up a live feed from an outdoor camera. 2 dark SUVs rolled up the hill toward the main house. "They're here," she whispered. I walked toward my hidden drawer and pulled out something I hadn't touched in years. A small metal case, worn at the edges. Inside it was a device. A last resort failsafe I had designed long ago. A digital trigger that, once activated, would release years of hidden financial evidence, names, accounts, illegal transactions from dozens of criminals who once tried to bury the truth, including Solance. "Marianne," Riley breathed. That's your entire archive." "Yes," I said softly. "Everything they fear." Ava blinked. "You're going to expose them?" I nodded. "Not just them, sweetheart. Everyone involved." Outside, the SUV doors slammed. Footsteps. Hard, unhurried, confident. Riley locked the steel door to the office. We could hear Solance's men moving through the yard, searching. "Mari, Riley began, but I raised a hand. I entered the final code into the device. A message appeared. This action cannot be undone. I thought of my husband. I thought of the years I spent building the foundation. I thought of Elena as a child, when she still looked at me with love instead of entitlement. I thought of Ava, this brave girl who still believed in right and wrong. Then I pressed enter. A low hum filled the room. Packets of data launched across secure networks. Evidence burst into government inboxes, investigator servers, media channels, whistleblower hotlines. A tidal wave of truth. Riley exhaled shakily. It's done. They can't stop it now. Outside, shouts erupted. Solence's plan was collapsing in real time. Ava hugged me so tightly I felt her heartbeat against mine. Grandma, will we be okay? I kissed the top of her head. We will now, because when truth finally speaks, darkness has nowhere left to hide. Footsteps pounded toward the guest house door, but suddenly sirens roared up the hill. Federal agents, police units, warrants already triggered by the data I released. Riley smiled for the first time that day. You just started an earthquake. No, I said gently. I ended one. Outside, the agents stormed the property. Solence was cornered. Liam was exposed. Elena's lies unfurled like ash in the wind. But inside my hidden steel room, we three simply held each other. 3 generations, one truth. The ledger had returned, and this time she wasn't cutting through numbers. She was cutting through fate itself. If this story made you feel something, anger, courage, heartbreak, strength, then remember this. Silence protects the powerful. Truth protects the vulnerable. And one brave voice can change an entire family's destiny. If you want more stories like this, more powerful twists, more emotional journeys, more cinematic worlds, follow, share, and stay with us. Because this was just one woman's fight. And there are countless more battles waiting to be told. Are you ready for the next one?